Welcome, all of you. I know you're coming from different parts of the country and actually from different parts of the world, which is fantastic. Some of our consultants and friends are from all around the United States and around the world. So it's nice that we can kind of use this technology and gather together and talk just a little bit about the society. And we recognize that everybody has busy schedules, and so Jim and I, on behalf of Jim, I want to thank you for taking this time out just to spend, about 40 minutes with us or so. And we're going to kind of go over what the society is all about. And some of you maybe know a lot more about the society a little bit, and some of you may not. So we'll kind of start at ground level here and kind of go through things. But I just wanted to say welcome to you all. And I think at this point, I'm going to just share the screen. And then Jim, why don't you go ahead and take it over, and let me make sure I'm doing this right. Can you all see that now?
Yeah.
Okay. I think a number of people are on mute probably. So Jim, why don't you go ahead and take it over here?
Yeah, happy to. We're, again, as Mark said, pleased that you've joined us today. We like to do something like this occasionally to let you get to know who we are and ask any questions that you may want to do. So that's our purpose today. And we'll take you into the slides here. If you could advance, Mark. I think you're in control of that still. Yeah.
Yep.
A little bit about my background. I've been with the society for over 10 years now, which is a little bit mind-boggling to me. I started in Mark's role in 2010 and then became president in 2016. I was doing church consulting on the side as part of my ministry for about 7 years. And then I started my own consulting practice formally at the same time that I became certified by the society and came on staff. And my role, as you might imagine, is to think ahead. Who are we? Where we're going? How are we going to get there? We do have a board, although we're pretty much staff-led. We lean on our board occasionally for guidance and insight. But Mark and I pretty much run what you see with the society. And when you look at what I do, I do training now. We use Zoom technology for that. My last cohort was just this last summer. Had people join me for 10 sessions of my revitalization training, which we're going to show you in a few slides here. And so I do that live, and we record it and make it available to people. I also do live training events for denominational groups, and I can help you see what the criteria is for when we would come to you. And of course, COVID has put a little bit of a dampener on that, but we're still interested in doing that. And then I also individually, primarily with Zoom, coach consultants as they're trying to become certified. Some of them shadow me, and shadowing can be just over technology or it can be in person. I also help aspiring consultants. I've written a few case studies, and I kind of walk them through that so they can learn. And then a big part of my role is to help people move, those that want to move towards certification. And all of that is tied to our mission statement. And so why don't we take a look at that on our next slide here. We have existed now since 2002. The society came about because of a concern for the state of the church, and primarily in America, where study after study showed that church in America was declining or plateaued. And we, for that reason, came up with a mission statement that's pretty much looked like this ever since we've existed. We made a little bit of a modification here just a couple of years ago. But you can see the 4 key words there, that we exist to revitalize and advance churches by training leaders and certifying consultants. You can kind of break that into the 2 lines that you see on the page there. Revitalize and advance churches. We lean heavily toward revitalization. Some of what we do is going to help you advance already healthy churches. but we're really focused on how do we revitalize churches that are not healthy, not growing, or declining and headed eventually toward death if they don't do something about it. And the second part of our mission statement says we train leaders and certify consultants. What that means is that when we attract people, and the kind of people that we typically attract are either influential pastors that want to get more tools in their tool bag. We attract denominational leaders or people that are new to a denominational leadership role, or those that want to start an independent consulting practice. But some of those are just leaders and they don't want to become certified, and so we train them. But others do want to go on that path toward certification. And I'm going to say more about that later in our presentation, but at this point, I'm going to let Mark talk a little bit about his role, and he'll take you into some other topics here.
Yeah, I don't know if I officially introduced myself, but my name is Mark Lenz, and I'm the executive director of the society. And I've been in this role for about 7 months now, although I've been involved with the society for a few years, probably about 4 years or so. And I did go through the certification as a consultant, and I come from a background of ministry. I was in ministry for over 30 years with lots of different roles: a church planter, senior pastor, executive pastor, groups, youth ministry back in the day. So kind of come at it with from the lens of organizational development and leadership development and things like that. So, but basically, Jim's role as president and mine as executive director are a little bit different. I sort of manage the day-to-day operations. So some of the social media things that we've just recently started, we put together a new database, which doesn't really make sense or matter to you all, but on our side, it makes things a lot easier to kind of track. And I work with our website and making additions to that and keeping that fresh. And so, like, if you think of Jim as the pilot of flying the ship, flying the plane at 30,000 feet, kind of the high level things, I'm more down in the weeds with the day-to-day operations of things. And I work with sharing resources to consultants and friends of the society, and we've got a blog going now. So I'll talk more about those things in a couple of minutes. But that's basically kind of the things I do. And I just wanted to share a little bit of what we're going to talk about the next half hour or so, just some of the discussion topics. We're going to talk a little bit about the types of membership. Again, I'm not sure what your background is with the society, but we have different types of membership, and I'll talk about that. And then Jim's going to talk about the different types of training that we offer. And then he'll move on to the path to certification. You may realize that we certify church consultants, and there's a pathway to that needs some explaining. And then I'm going to talk about some of the resources and the blog that we offer, and kind of close it up with just some questions and answers for you all to jump in on at the end. So that's sort of the game plan for the topics that we'll talk about. And so with that, I'll just go ahead and move into the basic membership. First of all, I want to say that nobody has to be a member of the society. We love you just as friends of the society. We actually have some resources and some social media connection spots for just friends of the society. They don't have to be members. But if you do want to become a member, there's what we call a basic membership. And that's, again, not required. It is required if you're going to be certified, but you don't have to become a basic member. But it is a good thing, especially if you're thinking about doing any of the training. The first thing, and maybe the most important, is that as a basic member, you become affiliated with an organization that's dedicated to you as your profession. We're going to be here to support you in whatever needs you have. So you've got an organization that's backing you, and it kind of gives some clout, some seriousness if you are an actual member of the organization. Another nice thing is we provide lots of discounts to members. So on all of our training, we provide discounts. On our level 5 coaching, we'll talk a little bit more about that. We have a starter kit, we have survey tools and demographic reports. Those are all available to anybody at the non-member rate, but as a member, you do receive some discounts. So if it's a financial thing, kind of like what I did, I said, man, I'm going to just become a member, and then I'm going to save a lot of money on all of the, the things that they need to purchase along the way. So, but as a member, again, you get free reports. We have a future trends report, which has just a ton of great information I won't dive into now. Also, the fishbone diagram is really kind of a fundamental piece that Jim has developed in his revitalization training. So that's a really good thing to know about. That'll come to you as a basic member. And then again, as a member, you have the opportunity for certification and recognition in the society. We'll talk a little bit more about our newsletter in a couple of minutes. Yeah, the next thing there is monthly newsletter. With consulting tools, we do offer some tools just for anybody, but we also offer training tools just for members. So, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. And as a member, you get annual coach up session with Jim, our president. So there's a lot of benefits to membership. And just to mention this now, that all of this information is available on our website, churchconsulting.org, but we're just going to kind of talk through a little bit of it now. Another style or type of membership is the student membership. So we recognize if you're a student, in fact, I was just connecting with a person who's a student, and we recognize that students have a financial responsibility with their school, and we want to kind of honor that and recognize that. So basically, it's the same discounts that are actually additional discounts, but the same benefits as a member would be as a member, but also some additional discounts on training. And you just have to let us know and kind of verify that you're a student to get those student membership rates. And then we also offer another sort of a little higher level of membership, which we call a premium membership. And this is never required. It's completely optional. But you get all the benefits of the basic membership. Plus you get, again, even greater discounts on things like the starter kit and the consultant development plan template that Jim has put together. So if you're really serious about being a consultant and want to go through the training, it might be beneficial to look at this consultant development plan, and you get some more time with Jim to walk you through that. You get actually 6 more development coaching sessions with Jim, either by phone or Zoom call, or if you're in the area, maybe get together. But basically, you get a lot more access to our president, Jim, with this premium membership. So just to recap all that, the big thing that you get is discounts as a member or a premium member. You get the monthly newsletter, and you get some member-specific consulting tools as well as membership. So I think, what is the saying around here? Membership has its privileges. So it's true at this society as well. And again, if you have any questions, we'll open it up for questions at the end. Maybe just jot them down, and we'll cover those. So that was membership, the different styles. Now, at this point, we're going to turn it over to Jim, and he is going to talk about the different types of training that the society offers. So go ahead, Jim. Why don't you take it away?
Yeah, happy to. I just want you to be aware that there's different delivery methods of our training, as well as the content. And so what you're going to see is that we have 1 or 2 times a year, and this is just an example from the last 3 or 4 years of places where we've done live training for a denominational group. And it doesn't have to be a denominational group. It can be a consortium of churches or leaders that want to kind of get together. But we kind of need to see a minimum of 8 participants to make this financially viable and beneficial for you, as well as something that the society can sign up for. But have enjoyed doing most of those that you're looking at right there, the 6 states that I'm referring to. I think 5 out of the 6 were all denominational groups, different denominational groups, Southern Baptist, as well as Converge, which is Baptist General Conference, and Oh, and then Primitive Baptist, which is kind of an Orthodox type of denomination in Florida that we worked with. We also do live training on Zoom. I just mentioned a few slides back that my last cohort was this summer, I think from June to August, met weekly. And I usually let the cohort decide some common time and day of the week that will work for them. I'm very flexible, and so we made it work. We ended up. I was surprised they wanted to do it on Saturday morning, which kind of surprised me, but that's what we did. And then whenever we do a live online session, we record that, and that gives us an updated version of our training that we can make available to other people that want to go self-paced and they don't necessarily want to sign on for a weekly thing over 10 weeks. And so right now the most recent online live delivery that we did was last summer. And so if you wanted our recording training, that's what you would get. These are downloadable MP4 files for those of you that are wondering about the technology. We used to do DVDs. We got away from that 2 or 3 years ago. And the other thing that you see there is that if you don't see yourself becoming a consultant, if you're more involved in ministry and you just want tools for revitalization, you can just choose to purchase the first 7 sessions out of 10. And we can show you how to do that. And obviously you would only pay 70% of the total cost of the material. The other part of what you see there that we're telling you is that for this revitalization training, and I'm going to show you the detail of the content of that in just a second. But what you see there is you're going to get 15 hours of training and you get 500 PowerPoint slides. So there's a lot of content. We always get high marks when we do evaluation forms on how, what'd you think of the training? And the content is very rich. We've never had anybody kick back and say this is not good training. So the last bullet there talks about another form of training that we call the Generalist track. These are only available by downloadable MP4 files because we recorded it in 2013 at Southwestern Seminary. Dr. John Ewart, who's on our board, did that. And valuable training. I'm going to show you the difference between the two trainings, the revitalization training track and the generalist track on the next 2 slides. So let's take a look at the content of the revitalization training. This is something that I developed based on my experience base, as well as this white paper. If you see the asterisk on the bottom there, wrote a white paper several years ago now, just updated it last year or earlier this year. But the revitalization training, and I'm not going to read all these words, but there's, first of all, you'll hear us talk about levels 1 through 4 in our training. If you look down that first column, you can see how levels 1, 2, 3, and 4 vary. I want you to be aware that if you do want the recordings, you can purchase those one at a time. And so if it's an affordability matter for you to think about, well, I can't sign up for the whole thing right now, well, then we'll work with you and you can just purchase level 1 right now. And then when you're ready and can afford, you can purchase level 2. In terms of the content of the training, you'll notice that the first 2 levels, 1 and 2A, 2B, are all about 7 different tools for revitalization. And so I'm going to walk you through some tools that any pastor or leader or consultant could use to help a church become revitalized by using these tools. One of those happens to be the fishbone diagram. And so then if we look at levels 3, yeah, take me all the way out there so I can see what we're looking at, Mark. Thanks. So if we look at level 3, that is actually a blow up of what the fishbone diagram is all about. We're going to walk you through the 12 health elements of the fishbone diagram. You would get the fishbone diagram Mark mentioned before. You get it if you're a member. You also get it if you take our training, obviously. So we're going to walk through those 12 health elements, what health looks like, and what unhealth can sometimes look like, and how to revitalize an unhealthy situation, the more common unhealthy situations that occur in those 12 areas. And then the last level 4, A, B, and C at the bottom, that's all about becoming a certified consultant. So I'm going to walk you through what is the field of church consulting look like? How do you move along the path to certification? What does it mean to be a generalist as a church consultant in the area of revitalization, and also to deliver certain specialties? I'm going to walk you through helping you see what your specialties might be that you could bring to a church. But I'm also going to, and this gets back to the core of our mission, which is about revitalization. I'm going to walk you through how to do a comprehensive church health assessment. Churches that need to be revitalized need to get in touch with what does health look like, and then have an objective assessment of what is their health in their church. And then the last session, I'm going to walk you through what I call the Malfers method, because I was trained in this by Aubrey Malfers, of how to come alongside of a church and facilitate their strategic ministry planning, which helps them move from whatever their reality of health is today to a preferable future, a vision for a much healthier church. The last topic we get into is if you're thinking about having an independent consulting practice, I'm going to walk you through some things to think about there. So I want you to think about this content, but let's look at the generalist track content. I mentioned before that this is valuable. When you hear that we recorded in 2013, your first thought might be, well, is this material dated? And frankly, it's not, because most of the principles of church health and church revitalization are timeless, and they are what theologians would call supracultural. They're things that any church needs in any culture at any time. And there may be a little bit of dating, but in the material, but I'm going to say that 95% of it is not dated at all. And so if you look at this listing and you would prefer, a guy that's got his doctorate to do the training, well, John's your guy. For many years, we called him our A trainer. He was the core guy that we went to. And it's really good content. And actually it was influenced in the early days by other influential people like Tom Rayner and Gary McIntosh, Aubrey Malfers, and others. So the content is really good. If you need help choosing between the two, we can have a conversation about that. Also want you to see what it would mean if you are interested in becoming certified. So let's move on to that next topic, Mark. And I'm going to talk you through the certification path and explain to you a couple of things about it. The first thing I want you to see is that we attract a very diverse group of people that are interested in our training and our certification. And when I say diversity, I mean all dimensions of that. We have international people. Some of you jumped on early, and you might have seen Niyi there. Niyi is in Nigeria. He became certified, I believe, last year. But right up in the middle of the page is Soon Hock Lim. Soon Hock is an evangelical free church guy in Malaysia. To his right is James Cossey. He's a Church of God guy. Up in the upper left-hand corner is a guy named Wisdom Masita. He has his doctorate from Southwestern Seminary. He's a Southern Baptist guy. Joe Donaldson in the lower right-hand corner is in Washington State, and he's Converge or Baptist General Conference. Karen Weber is the wife of a Pentecostal pastor in Louisiana, and Dwayne Hawkins is a denominational leader, I believe, in Nebraska. If it's not Nebraska, it's real close to Nebraska. But you can see here on this page, ethnic diversity, denominational diversity, gender diversity, all of that is true. And we're happy to be affiliated with all of these folks. Let me talk next slide here a little bit about the benefits of certification. Why would you want to consider being certified? Well, just as Mark said, being a member of an organization that's focused on consulting, being able to put the word certified church consultant next to your name has weight. If you think about getting your car worked on or getting other things done, if you have a certified mechanic, it's a different thing than just Joe down the street that has a garage door open that's working on cars. So, and that's true of us. If you are certified, you get the use of our logo, which carries a little bit of weight there, a message. You can use it as long as you remain actively certified. You can be listed in our online directory. And the value of that, by the way, is that not only if you have your own website, will people find you, but if, and I've had this happen myself 2 or 3 times where people have Googled Church Consultants Minnesota and they have found me through not only my own website, but through the society website. So that's of value as well. We give you a frameable certificate, and every year when you renew, we update that for you. Mark will highlight you when you become certified. He'll highlight you in the next upcoming newsletter so that other people can become aware of who you are and link to your placement on our directory. And then the last thing that we have on our website, which is important for those that are certified, we have a tool on our website called Request a Consultant. And we did this because occasionally churches, denominational leaders would come to us and wanted to get help for a church. So we will have people either individually, it could be a board member, it could be a pastor, it could be a denominational leader, come and say, hey, we're looking for a consultant, and we have a form that they can fill out. And this actually just happened 2 weeks ago. We had a church in, I think it's LaGrange, Georgia, just southwest of Atlanta, looking for a consultant. They came to us, and then they gave us criteria. They happened to be Southern Baptist, so they only wanted certified consultants with Southern Baptist affiliation. And so I notified, I think, the 7 certified consultants that are affiliated with the Southern Baptist Church. And they're in the process right now of communicating with this church, and that the church will decide who they want to work with as a consultant. So that's a benefit of certification. The actual requirements in the path we talk about on the next slide. And what you're seeing on this slide is a status sheet that I create for you. If you start out in training and are on the path to certification, I'm going to create this status sheet. And then every time you start to make progress, I'm going to update this status sheet so that you and I are tracking at the same time on what the requirements are. And you can notice on here that, this individual's just getting started. They completed our training. They are a member, but they got work to do to become certified. You may wonder, well, what are all those requirements? And we can, if in the Q&A session, if you want to get into any of the detail on that, we can. What Mark and I wanted to do today was just suggest that we could refer you to a 20-minute webinar that he and I did together back in May. And the link for that is, if you could zoom back out, Mark, the link for the webinar that I'm talking about is on the top of this slide. And yeah, we go through in detail what the elements are the requirements of certification. So, but again, we can get into that in the Q&A session today. All right, so Mark, we're going to turn that back over to you and let you continue here.
Yeah, thanks, Jim. Great information about that path to certification and the training involved. One of the things that we've been hearing from some of our consultants is just kind of a need for additional resources as members. We mentioned that you get a lot of discounts, but we want to really be able to kind of up our game a little bit. So we've added some resources recently to our blog. This is just a picture of our website, and what these are just the free resources that anybody can get their hands on. If you go to the resources tab, you can just click on free resources, and there's just little videos and little documents that are really for anybody, just general church health stuff. But we do want to keep the value of membership very valuable, so we do have some member-only resources as well. So again, same resources tab, you clicked on that, and then you can get to the member resources, and that's password protected. So when you become a member, we'll give you the password. You type in the password, submit it, and then you come to the member resource page. So again, it has a number of different videos and different things that are a little bit more applicable to church consultants and church leaders. They're not just for anybody, but they're specifically designed with you in mind. So We wanted to share those things. We do publish those types of things in our monthly newsletter. But again, this is sort of a backlog and some extra things that you as members can get just to resource yourself. And then we've also recently added a blog. And these blog entries are from Jim and myself, and I think we have one of our board members, but from some of our other experienced church consultants. In fact, Niyi, I think, just posted one that this picture doesn't reflect here. This is from a few weeks back, but again, on our website, on the resources tab, if you click on blog, you'll see just some blog entries from some of our certified church consultants. So we post on that about twice a month. And then, of course, we'll put that out on our social media accounts as well. So just people from wherever can kind of, get some good tips from some of our certified consultants and maybe raise some interest there. So those are all things that are relatively new as far as putting them on the website, but we do want to offer you some extra resources as valued consultants and members. So that's just a little bit about some of the resources that we have. And now what we'd like to do is just sort of, before we open it up for questions, we have some, excuse me, some frequently asked questions that I want to talk to you about. And the two big frequently asked questions that we get have to do with time and money, both very valuable things. How much time does this take to get certified and go through the training, and how much does it cost? So you can see here on the slide, how long does it take to become certified by the society? Well, the answer is it really depends on your personal schedule and your availability. Some people want to get things done really quickly. Some people just their life situation is more apt to let's take our time going through this. And either way is really fine. It doesn't really matter to us. I think the fastest we've ever seen somebody go through all the training and everything, all the certification, is probably 6 months. But more realistically, you're probably looking at more like a year or maybe even 2, depending. Like I kind of went through my training things, those DVDs back then. I went through those relatively fast, maybe 5, 6 months. I can't remember. And then I kind of sat around for a while until things got right in my schedule, and then sort of dove into the certification process. So it really can look different for anyone. But be thinking in the year and a half, 2-year time frame generally. And then the second most frequently asked question is, how much is it going to cost? Well, again, the answer depends on the optional ways that you complete the training. I think most of our levels 1 through 4 training, if you purchase them all together, it's about $995, so just under $1,000. But then depending on how you go about your certification, that can kind of vary, depending on if you have some previous experience as a consultant, or like I didn't. So, I kind of went through some kind of rigorous work, but it's all good. But it does take some time, and the cost varies. So the low end is maybe around $1,600 when you add it all up. The high end might be as high as $2,100. And again, it's going to depend on if you shadow a certified consultant on one of their consultations. I did this with Jim. Fortunately, I wasn't too far away. It was driving distance. But traveling expenses can be added in there as well. So, but that gives you a general ballpark of the cost involved. And so at this time, what I'd like to do is I'd like to stop sharing the video, and I want to make sure that you're all unmuted, and we'll go into a time of questions and answers. So that means you get to provide the questions, and we will do our best to provide the answers. I think maybe you can all unmute yourselves here. I'm not sure. I'm asking you to unmute. Maybe that's how it works. There we go. Let's see, I think Brian is still muted. And maybe you can unmute yourself if you have a question to ask. That might be the best way to go. But I know we kind of covered a lot. We wanted to sort of get this done in about an hour and leave some time for questions and answers. And so it's up to you. If you have any questions or even comments, we'd love to hear those.
So this is Jeff. I have a few that I I'm willing to do one, and then I'll pause to make sure others can jump in. But in terms of, I don't want to call it market share, but if you look at consultants, in general, what percentage would you say, and is this a data point you even have, that are, certified through this organization versus just doing church consulting? Any sorts of sort of stats on that?
Yeah, I'll share what I can share. We've had, there's a little bit of turnover in our, it's a little hard for me to assess the full market, okay?
Sure.
But I can tell you from my own experience with the people that have come through us, there's a little bit of a tendency for people to become certified by us and not necessarily retain and keep their certification active. And all that means is they stop having the use of our logo and they can't be in our directory and that kind of thing. And I would say that percentage is something like probably 70% come and go, and more like 30% retain their certification with us. That's on a little bit of an upward tick. In other words, that more are retaining their certification than when I first started. The market, I have more of a sense of the two dimensions of the market than what you're really asking for. Let me just say what I can say. The need is great. Statistically, depending on how you measure it and when you measure it over the last 20 years, somewhere between 65% and 90% of churches are either flat or declining. And that, in just Protestant churches, that equates to some 300,000 plus churches that need revitalization. And so the market is great. However, the demand, because church leadership teams have a difficult time facing into that reality, and they have a difficult time coming to consensus about the need to ask for outside help. And even if they come to consensus, then they've still got to potentially, usually, outlay some finances. And so, you end up with 2 or 3 layers of barrier there for a market of some 300,000 plus churches that need revitalization. That's pretty significant. So a little hard for me. I can tell you that, there are others in America that are certifying. There are some denominational groups, although it's kind of rare that they're doing as comprehensive a training as we're providing for pastors to become consultants and that kind of thing. But there are a couple, and I've actually blessed a couple, that if people come through their system, they qualify to become certified through us. And really, there's only a couple of others. Tom Rayner's group, Church Answers, Church Consulting University, is being, well used and should be. And I'm aware of another one that's thinking about starting, but I don't think they've ever launched. I think COVID hit right when they were going to launch. It was with the Malfers group, and I think they put the brakes on and haven't really launched yet. So I don't know. Does that help, Jeff? Or
Yeah, that helps. And Mark, were you going to add something?
Yeah, I was just going to mention, thanks. Great question. I was just going to mention that I do know a good number of consultants, and I don't really know of many of them or any of them really, that are certified. They're brilliant people, and they kind of maybe they have a lot of church experience and they start kind of on their own, but I don't see the word, certified, which implies training, but more than training, it implies a lot more than that. So besides the consultants that we certify, I don't really know of many or really any that can say, yeah, I've been trained and certified as a consultant. So
okay, that's helpful. And maybe if I can throw out one more just before I'll stop talking for a sec. You mentioned a portion of the presentation was on just specialization. I think I heard like kind of one line on it. So by trade, I'm an internal auditor, so risk identification, controls assessment. That's sort of what I do, and would love to. I'm kind of exploring working in that space for churches. It is a little bit distinct from revitalization, although, a part of it, certainly you want a good risk management structure and things like that in place, but different than looking at overall church health and how's the worship team or, the greeters, all different sorts of things you might look at there. It's a very specific piece of that. Is that something that if I were looking specifically at like the risk management context, that I would look at being a part of this body and kind of just expanding my knowledge and being certified as being able to do the other things while focusing on risk management? Or is it maybe not so much the greatest thing? Maybe I'm kind of unique in having a risk management flair to what I do.
Well, there's a lot of specialties. I mean, when I launched my practice, I did a exercise where I Googled church consulting, and I looked at the first 200 websites that I found, and I found 34 specialties, and your area would be one of them. I think it shows up on the list that I created back then. And what I would say, and what I say to anyone when we're doing training, is that your specialty may get you in the door with the church, but if you have more of a generalist approach to revitalization, your specialty may get you in the door to eventually also do full-on revitalization with the church. Conversely, if you have in your toolbox the capacity to come alongside a church with revitalization tools, and that gets you in the door, that could also then lead to your specialty as well. So I think I'm camping on something you were wondering about there, that yes, our training and certification would broaden you out and would maybe get you in the door first that way before they would get to your specialty.
Another thing that you can do, if you have a specialty, you can definitely list that if you do become certified, in your consultant directory page. I think, Jim, you've kind of had some expertise in church governance and things like that. So that's
Yes.
kind of a unique thing. But if I'm a church that's looking for a consultant, I can easily scroll through the certified consultants that we have on our directory and kind of look at some of their specialties. And so, Jeff, if you have that specialty, people might notice that and click on you. Especially, nowadays it's less geographically centered. I mean, people fly places. Well, pre-COVID they did, but you can do a lot of consulting through phone calls and Zoom calls and things like that. So the area of the country you live in is not as important now. And so having a specialty, I think, can be leveraged.
Yeah, this church in Georgia that I just talked about, they wanted a consultant 2 weeks ago. They were concerned about leadership development, team building on their staff. It's a multi-staff church. So that's another example of a specialty. But how about some other questions? But Jeff, we'll come back to you. We know you got another one waiting in the wings there.
Well, I guess I can kind of tell a little bit about why I'm on the call. So I'm interested in doing consulting in a sense. I see a lot of churches around my county, my town. They're really small and unorganized. And, I just feel like they just need help. And so I would like to be able to offer them, whether it's practical help, bookkeeping help, whatever. And so I have been kind of looking for a way to, kind of certify, make myself more official in that capacity before I launched out to doing that. Some of my background is in that, not all of it. I've always been involved in church leadership, at least for like the last 20 years. But I'm not, I'm not a minister. I'm not going to seminary or anything like that, just as a lay person. But bringing my particular skill set to just some of these little, I just think they call it that, but like the little bitty churches, not the big ones where they have a full-time staff, somebody's there all the time, but the one where nobody's there Monday through Saturday. Yeah. They're trying to do it all on Sunday and, at somebody's house.
Sure.
that's kind of where I'm looking. And I don't know that I necessarily need a
And that, you know, that
$2,000 worth of certification or not, or if I just do some of the training and I have enough, or
yeah.
so.
Well, you could take it incrementally. Like I said, if you wanted to do the recordings, you could just do level one, $250 for level one, and then you could decide, you know, is that going to stimulate my thinking if I keep going here? You know, one of the things that people always say is that you don't go to college because when you come out the other end, you're going to have all the answers. In many ways, you go to college so that you can learn how to learn, and so that when you're in any setting, you can apply the principles of learning to that setting. And so I think you would find that our training, even though it may not be specialized into exactly what you just talked about for small churches, I think it will help broaden your thinking to how you could think differently about how you could approach them and make yourself a resource to them. The other thing, I just want to applaud you for, you know, having a heart for the small church. I mean, of the 300,000 plus, you know, that I mentioned when I was talking with Jeff or answering Jeff's question, the majority are still small churches. I mean, the high profile churches, bigger multi-staff and mega churches and multi-site, et cetera, get all the print and they're on Twitter and, you know, but the fact remains there's a bunch of small churches, as you said, around your community, and they all need help. Most of them do. So I applaud your heart for that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I would just echo that too. I mean, you know, if you are in a community where you have some connections with small churches, I would venture to think that they would love having someone like you come alongside just to help out in different areas. And so kind of, you know, going through some of our training, even levels 1 through, you know, even levels 1 through 3, that gives a very, you know, more of a broader picture of things. And even being a member gives you access to tools and things like that. I think as sort of a helper to come alongside, I think you'd get some good learning out of doing that. And like Jim said, you can kind of do it piece by piece too. So.
Okay. When would the next cohort start?
Well, we'd hope to start one this fall, and it didn't take off.
You just missed it. Yeah.
We might want to start after the first of the year. We'll probably put the word out and try to get something going in January. But again, the recordings they're ready this afternoon. So.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. I could do the recordings.
Yes.
Of a cohort. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's our most recent one, so it's been updated with any current or new information that I had. I never mail in a training event. I always critique it and improve it. So it's fresh, very fresh. So.
Okay.
Yeah. Jeff, you've got another question.
Yeah, one more that's kind of a dual question. So I'm sneaking them all in while I have the audience. When we're thinking about consulting, how many are bivocational, if that's the right term? So kind of doing consulting, but then are also doing something on the side. I mean, that's my consideration. I have a job and I'm passionate about the area, about ministry, gift administration, and, you know, I can see a lot of these things emerging in the space.
Sure.
So how much of that do you see? And then secondly, in this COVID era, I heard, like Mark, you mentioned, you know, drove to meet Jim to do something and, you know, kind of that sort of shadowing. How much of this can be done virtually? And then even with the demand, I guess, from churches that you're seeing, is it just as active in the COVID environment? And are people wanting to know more than just how do we manage the pandemic? You mentioned like leadership, you know, or teamwork building. So are folks doing more? So a lot in that one question, but just the general space there.
Yeah, on the bivocational question, the majority of consultants are bivocational. If they're not wearing 2 hats, they may be wearing 3 or 4. And Niyi's nodding his hat because he's a consultant and he's also administrative pastor. And I don't know what else Niyi does, but he's bivocational. I'm bivocational. I oversee the society and I'm a consultant. Mark is bivocational. So that's more the norm than not, although Again, if you only look at Twitter, you're going to see high profile church consultants like Tony Morgan and Will Mancini and others who that's all they do. And that's great. You know, that's how God is using them, but they are the exception and not the rule. When we've studied this over the last 10 years, the average consultant is doing 5 hours or less per week of actual church consulting, and they're doing other things. And so our mantra that I got from Gary McIntosh, and you can Google this on YouTube, church consulting, Gary McIntosh, and you'll probably find him in one of our training sessions, because he used to be on our board, where someone had just asked him, what advice would you give someone who's starting a consulting practice? And the very first words out of his mouth were, do not quit your day job. In other words, be bivocational, if not tri-vocational. So that would be my thought. And I'll address the COVID, and then Mark, if you want to chime in on either one of these questions when I'm done, you can do that. But in the COVID era, I've done some consulting in the COVID era. When it hit in March, I was in the middle of a facilitating strategic ministry with a church, ministry planning with a church. And we ended up social distancing in the sanctuary rather than meeting in a smaller meeting. And then we put it on pause, but then we resurrected it, and I met with them in July. And by the time we got to July, now everyone was wearing face masks, but we still met in the sanctuary with social distancing. And we met twice, July and August. So I think people have adjusted, just like in all aspects of life. There's been a little bit of an adjustment with learning, you know, what do you got to do to make things healthy and safe and that kind of thing. But COVID has definitely impacted and slowed down, unfortunately, the opportunity for consultants to come into a church. But the other thing that I will say is that COVID, the ultimate outcome of COVID, is that it is going to expose the underlying weaknesses of many, many churches. And for that reason, the need for consultants is only going to grow coming out the back end of this, because churches are going to try to scramble and figure out, okay, now, you know, we possibly lost 24% of our people, and we didn't have a digital platform like we should have, and we're still trying to figure out how to do that kind of stuff. And on top of that, we've got all of these other unhealth factors that made us flat on the life cycle curve or declining on the life cycle curve. And so consultants are just, you know, going to be well positioned to come alongside and help turn around those kind of situations. And a lasting thought, and then I'll let Mark say something here, but if you're not a student of multi-site, not that you have to have expertise in multi-site churches, but you should be a student of it, because I think a lot of churches are going to need to be adopted by someone else for survival to even be thought of. They're going to have to be adopted by somebody else. And so at least learn, you know, what are the experts saying? And Jim Tomberlin, Warren Bird are two big names. Tony Morgan's actually involved in that as well. So Mark, what are your thoughts on either one of those?
I think that, you know, the same thing. I know a church in our area, a large church, that their multi-site strategy now is really just adopting struggling churches. And so it's a little different strategy than others, but I'm not saying it's a bad strategy. And so people are looking for help, you know, and I just would probably echo everything that Jim said. I think COVID is going to increase the need for church consultants to come along, and you know, I think it might be easy to blame, you know, for a church to blame all of their issues, their present issues, on COVID. And I think that's where a wise consultant can come in and say, well, let's look at how the church was before COVID, and are there underlying things that we need to address in addition to the new realities of COVID. So
I just thought of this while Mark was speaking, and that's why it's good to shut up sometimes so you can think a little bit. So this church that I said I was trying to connect 2 weeks ago, starting 2 weeks ago, with some of our certified consultants, I specifically asked, as soon as they asked for a consultant, I said, in COVID times, I need to know, do you want someone to come on site or do you want them to just do this virtually? And they said, well, no, we want them on site. So they've adjusted, they've, thought through what they're going to have to do to socially distance and that kind of thing. But then, and again, I'll say one more thing and then I will stop talking again. And that is that Zoom technology, as people get, fatigued by Zoom and that kind of thing, it's still a great tool. And so when I talked about pausing with the church that I was working with between, say, April through June, I did do a Zoom training session that's a natural part of how I do my consulting. And I trained, I think, 23 people, and it became a good way to keep the process moving, even though I didn't come on site and they didn't have to feel at risk of having everybody in the same room at the same time. So
that's helpful. Thank you both.
yeah. Any other questions?
Great.
Go ahead.
Yeah, anything else, Pamela or Niyi? It looks like maybe Brian might have left our meeting, but want to open it up for any last questions.
Well, it wasn't so much, well, I guess in a way it's a question. When you mentioned about churches taking, coming alongside some of the churches that are struggling, we've done that with 2 churches in very different neighborhoods than our church. And one of the things that I feel that we didn't do very well was adapt what we do to what that community needed. One was a very largely Hispanic neighborhood, and we came in with not a very Hispanic presence, and it almost upended the whole process.
Yeah.
We figured it out, but that's what it brought me to is and I'm sure it will, but I just want to clarify, how will the training touch on that whole diversity component? Because if you do go in and you help another church, or you're in a new neighborhood, even if you're just branching out or whatever, you've got to be able to do almost like a needs assessment for that community.
Sure.
Just wondering, do you?
Yeah, maybe I can just jump in at the beginning.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely no one size fits all. As a consultant, consultant needs to go in kind of with a clean slate and kind of maybe forget about not the principles, but the specifics of the last consultation they did. Remember the timeless principles. And then we do have some very powerful tools as far as demographic studies, which churches can purchase, and you'd sort of lead them through that. And those are very powerful tools to let you know what the demographics of the specific area are. And it's incredibly powerful. The information that you get out of that, it blows me away on how much information that you can get. So that is a great tool to really dive into the specific needs of the specific church. And you'll want to look at their vision and values and all of those things that might be similar, but might be very, very different from other churches. So Jim, I know you've probably got more to share on that.
No, that's good coverage. We do touch on it. Maybe not as deep as you might want to go, but we're certainly going to give you some ways to approach that question, and in particular the demographic studies, which is a purchase tool that we don't own the rights to, but if you're a member, we can get you a little bit of a discount on that, and we'll refer you actually to three different demographic studies that you could do, 2 of which are purchase services, and there's actually a free one out there called ARDA, ARDA. Something about archives of religious data. I'm kind of butchering the name, but anyway. Okay. Yeah.
All right. This was very helpful. Thank you.
Good.
Appreciate
Yeah.
it.
Well, great to meet you, Pamela, and let us know how we can help you more.
Yes. It will probably be after the first of the year for me, just because so many other things planned for the rest of the year, but probably the first of the year. And I'm thinking probably starting, like you suggested, with just kind of listening to the recordings to kind of get my mind wrapped around it. I'm not opposed to certification. I just want to make sure that's the right path.
Yeah, good.
This is
Excellent.
very helpful.
And Pamela, I don't know if you are on our mailing list, but we have a free, what's it called? A free training guide, Jim? Is that what it's called? Yeah.
Right.
On our website, if you just sign up to get that, you get it free, and then that automatically puts you on our mailing list. So we send out just a general email once a month that just has some
Oh
information.
yeah, I do get that. I get
Things like that, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
You could go to our website, or you could just email me and I can add you in there. But that's just a good way to just even stay kind of in the loop on what we're doing. And then when the timing is right, you're ready to kind of dive in.
Perfect.
So it looked like I got some little chat messages from Jeff and from Brian. They had to take off here. So
yeah, I think they just were saying goodbye. Yeah.
yeah. So any other last comments, Niyi? I know it's evening where you are, so maybe he's just hanging out. But if not, I again want to just thank you so much for sharing this hour with us. I know we ran a little bit over, but that's good to kind of connect with you and see faces digitally, if not in person. And if I could just maybe close us with a word of prayer, and then we'll kind of be on our way. So, Heavenly Father, thanks so much for this time that through the blessings of technology, we can get together and share and dream a little bit and share about your kingdom and the church that you started, Lord. And we confess that we are but laborers in your harvest and want to do your will. And we really want to help out other churches and people coming to know you. That's our ultimate goal, Lord. So be with us now these days of COVID. Keep us healthy, and let us be wise in what we're doing, whether we're considering helping out churches or even doing training and all those things. There's some big decisions around that. So we know that you are sovereign over all that. We ask for your Holy Spirit to lead and guide us through those decisions and through these upcoming days and months. And we just want to give you all the glory that may come from this. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you.
Amen.
Good
Well,
to see everybody.
this was fun. Maybe we can do some other kind of online get-togethers in the future here. This was kind of it's good to meet you all. And again, we are available to help out. Our emails, mine and Jim's, are on the website. And again, our website is churchconsulting.org. And we do also have Facebook pages that you can like and groups that you can get into. That's, there's no cost to that or anything like that. So, I think if you just search the Society for Church Consulting on Facebook, we have a page for our company, but then also just a group of people that are friends of the society and things like that. So other real quick ways, and Twitter as well. So you can connect that way as well.
All right, great.
All right. I think with this, we'll just kind of end it here. And we have recorded this, so I don't know if I think Niyi mentioned that he wasn't able to see the slides. So I said that once I get this sort of edited down, I'll send him a link to that. So if you do want to run through things again, feel free to. I could send you the link if you wanted to. But Niyi, I'll definitely do that for you so that you can kind of see those slides.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right. Take care now. Bye-bye.